It is now time to take a look at the NHL standings as of November 21st. Let's start with the Atlantic Division. Panthers remain on top. They've been there pretty much the entire time, followed by the Leafs and Tampa. The Leafs did make a huge climb the last 2 weeks, and this is totally unbiased, but the Leafs made a huge climb the last 2 weeks with their 5-game win streak that was just ended this Saturday by the Pens. Red Wings made a big fall from 2nd to 4th. And then another thing also to note is the Habs. They jumped from 8th to 7th, so not a big jump, but they made a jump. And the Sens are now in the final spot. A big part of that, though, for the Sens is due to their bout with COVID that they are currently going through. Now, in terms of who to keep an eye on, I wouldn't say to keep an eye on the Habs, even though they are starting to make somewhat of a climb. I don't think they are in the position as a team to make that large of a commitment to make that climb. I don't think they're in the position to be consistent enough to make a further climb, my opinion. I would say, though, to look to the Leafs. And like I said, totally unbiased opinion, I promise. Just because I don't think they are ready to go on a slide yet. I know it will happen for them eventually because it happens for every team. I think, though, that because they just had their 5-game win streak and then they dropped one, most times when that happens, the Leafs are able to rebound one more time for a streak and then they'll go off a bit. So like this week, for example, they played the Saturday against the Pens. Sunday they're against the Islanders, and then they have their Western road trip. So they have their Western road trip with the LA, the Sharks, and the Ducks. So those 3 teams are doing average in terms of their division standings. And for the Leafs, with road trips like this, it really depends what mood they're in going into that first game that will determine how they do for the entire road trip. So having said that, that's why I'm saying to keep an eye on them, because it could really swing either way for them, totally depending on what mood they're in starting that first game. So moving to the Metro Division, Carolina remains in first, similar to the Panthers. They've been there pretty much the whole time. Only 2 losses. So they are followed by Washington and the Rangers. The Islanders have now slipped to the bottom with their 5-game losing streak. And again, part of that can be because of their bout with COVID that they are currently going through. They're missing a lot of their key guys as well. And then the Pens had a big couple weeks, only 1 point from 4th now. So that division is still relatively close. The teams are still relatively close to one another. So they are just 1 point away from 4th. I would say to keep an eye on the Pens to make a big climb this week. They just got Crosby back not too long ago after his injury and his own bout with COVID. So they just got him back, and as they start to become more settled as a team and they start to kind of get in their groove, I would expect to see a climb from them this next week. Overall, though, not much movement in this division other than the Pens making their climb, and then a couple other teams swapped positions like the Rangers and Caps and Devils and Blue Jackets. So not much movement there. That division's still very, very tight. Central Division, the Wild have claimed first with the Jets close behind. The Blues fell to 3rd. The rest is all the same, except for Colorado. They jumped a spot over Dallas. So again, the Central Division kind of stayed relatively similar to what it was. Colorado are the ones I would say to keep an eye on for this coming week. They are on a 4-game win streak, but aside from that, overall, they are starting to pick it up, I've noticed. Blackhawks, actually, interestingly enough, they were also on a 4-game win streak up until Saturday. So, I think it was against the Oilers. So, if they are able to rebound, I would say to keep an eye on them too, if they're able to rebound after that one loss and pick up their streak again. But similar to the Habs, I don't think they are in the position to be that consistent. So I think they're kind of in the same position, but I guess keep an eye on them if you want. Don't know. Last division, Pacific Division. Oilers remain in first, sadly. Unless you're an Oilers fan, then congrats, I guess. They are followed by the Flames and the Ducks, which is the same as last time I reported on the standings. Vegas has made a jump from 6th to 4th, and San Jose has fallen from 6th to 4th, so they kind of swapped spots. Seattle remains in the bottom in this division. They're on a 6-game losing streak. I don't think this is what Gary Bettman had in mind for his new beloved expansion team. So, sucks for him. For this division, though, I would keep an eye on Vegas. When they make a push and start a streak, they normally go all in for quite a bit, so for like an extended period of time. So I would expect them to ride off of the push that they've made this past week and kind of go all in for a longer period of time. So those are all of the standings for this past week. Come back next week for another update.